Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
Steve, how are you today?
I am doing okay.
All right. Does this shirt look wrinkled?
I missed the countdown to the recording, but it does say you're recording, so that is good.
Yeah, I'm recording. It says it's live too, which I don't quite. Now it's back to recording. We're using Riverside here, and I swear it's different every time. Not every time, but it seems like it's different. Now it's saying recording. So I guess we're recording, so that hopefully people will be able to do it. This shirt looks a little wrinkled, doesn't it? All right.
I should have dressed up because I'm going to a funeral in an hour.
Oh my goodness, you are. I'm sorry.
I am.
Hopefully, I'm sorry. I guess my condolences to whoever.
It's actually had never met the deceased, but I knew her husband. I know her husband fairly well. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's nice of you to go and show some respect. I haven't done a funeral for a long time, and I hope I don't have to do one again. I've had people tell me this back when I was doing ministry. I've had people tell me, you do really good eulogies. I'm like, well, thanks. But anyhow. Yeah, it's part of life, right? It's part of the cycle of life.
It is. So, she has been sick for a very long time.
Oh.
For as long as I've known this guy, which is several years.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. And I've heard her voice on the phone, but I never spoke with her.
Wow.
Or never met her face to face. So,
well, my condolences to the family. I know that's hard, especially when somebody's sick for a long time.
Yeah.
Now maybe she's at peace. All right. Well, on to more positive things, I guess. I don't know if you want to call it that. This is episode number 489. We should do an episode on death sometime. Stream it.
Just to brighten everyone's day.
All right. This is the weirdest start we've ever had to a podcast, I think.
All right. Let's move on.
Let's move on, shall we?
What are we talking about?
We're going to talk about audio. And before we talk about it, by the way, I have notes to this already up on the blog. So if you want to go to streamingchurch.tv/blog, you can keep score at home. And the title is called From Sanctuary to Screen, Evaluating Your Church's Live Stream Audio. We're going to talk about audio. But before we do that.
Or it could be elevating your church's live stream audio.
What did I say?
Evaluating.
Just you could evaluate or
we can evaluate.
Yeah, you could do both. Yeah. Did I spell that right? All right. Once again, we're off to a good start. There is a webinar coming up. Let's see if we can get that one right. And it's having to do with, I think this is really something that churches ought to be interested in if they're not, language and hearing barriers. That can really affect people from really experiencing your services, not just online, but there at the facility that you're at. So we're going to partner up with Aberdeen Broadcast Services. And we're doing a free webinar. That's going to be a Tuesday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern time. If you have Eastern time, it's afternoon. It's September 23rd. And it's free. We're going to show you how AI-powered captions and translations are making worship accessible to everybody. And you're going to get an exclusive look at this new technology, how it works in real time, and give you some real-world examples of this thing. And this can apply to your live streaming video as well as your in-person services. So here's the nice thing about this. If you attend, you will get a complimentary 1-month membership from Aberdeen. And if you are fortunate enough, stick around long enough and join us and we'll have a live Q&A, of course, but if you stick around long enough, you could possibly win 3 months completely free. It's always hard for me to say 3 and free. I never could get it right in high school.
What's interesting here, real life example, is I do video switching for our church, and we have a cameraman that does not speak English. So if his wife is not working and on a headset as well, he pretty much can't do it pretty much because we have headsets between the switching, and we have a director, and we'll get into some of this maybe. And anyway, our last meeting, which is kind of interesting because we do a pre-service get together, and our little team meets together as well. And I noticed this last time that he pulled his phone out while we had our pre-service meeting, and so he's getting a live translation of what's going on in our pre-service meeting right there on his phone. So
what's his native language?
Spanish.
Okay.
So, and his wife is fluent in Spanish, and and his brother is also he's bilingual, but he speaks English. But the guy that volunteers on camera, he doesn't know. I mean, he knows very little. He knows as much Spanish as I know. I mean, as much English as I know Spanish. Okay. So we are able to, hola, gracias,
Alto. Yeah, well, that's interesting. All right. Another tidbit of weirdness to this podcast. So sign up for the webinar, folks. This is going to be very interesting, I think. You just go to webinar.streamingchurch.tv. And look, if you're not going to make it, sign up anyhow. We'll send you a copy of the thing. But you ought to come to it because you get to do some interaction with us, Q&A and all that stuff with the folks from Aberdeen Broadcast Services. A bunch of those guys will be on. They have quite a good team. So we're looking forward to this. September 23rd. Mark your calendar now. 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Broadcasting live.
So back to our regular scheduled program.
All right. Done with that.
What are we talking about? Elevating your church's live stream audio.
As you know, I was your church online pastor for a while, one of the roles I had at your church before they fired me. And I understand that, people are all excited about video, visuals, and all that good stuff when it comes to streaming video. And people work really hard trying to get, good cameras and good lighting and good angles. And that's very important. But I think, and I have said this before, and I think I've rung this bell quite a bit, and I think you agree, there's something equally as important, if not maybe more important.
Yes. And that would be audio.
Audio.
Yes.
That would be audio.
Yes.
Because...
And that's, I don't know what the stats are, but I think it's 100%. 100% of people that cannot hear or understand the audio will not stick around. So it's kind of, it's kind of, I mean, it's not like we have all our kids over and their kids, the grandkids, and it's usually on a weekend and there'll be a football game on or something else that, some of my kids are just really into the whole sporting thing. And we can turn it on and they can enjoy it without the audio because you can kind of see what's going on and they post the score and all that. Not so much with the church service.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah. You are not going to get much out of a church service watching someone's mouth move, and there's not a scoreboard. And yes.
Yeah. No instant replay.
No instant replay. Yeah. And yes. Yeah. So if you're not getting the audio, you are not participating. So you're going to bail.
Yeah. So, of course, unless you decide to use Aberdeen broadcast. But anyhow, we'll talk about that in the webinar. But look, and not just the fact that you can't hear it, but maybe you could hear it, but it's really distorted. That's annoying, right? I mean, and then Jesus said, "Arise for the truth." I mean, that's just annoying.
Yeah, well, then people won't stick around either. It's probably worse than not being able to hear it at all.
I think so.
We've had some of that. Because we get, we get new churches streaming with us every week, and so we'll try to drop in on their service, and sometimes it's just a mess, and it's usually the audio, and usually the audio's overdriven, just completely blasted out, just like you gave the example of.
Or you can't hear it, or they're really far away and you can't hear them, and then somebody makes an adjustment, it's really loud. Yeah, it's just, How you like my illustrations? Huh?
Yes,
So,
just
but
great.
yeah, it's frustrating, and again, I think there's just not a good understanding, especially when you first start doing streaming video. There's just not a good understanding that audio is so important. And here's the other issue too, and that is that a lot of people don't realize whoever is turning the stream on and sitting back there, maybe they don't really understand. Hey, you got to be monitoring the audio. You can't
Yeah,
just be looking
that's
at the screen.
yeah, and that's probably especially for all of the people that have not done well with it. It's usually they eventually figure it out because everyone's complaining,
Yeah.
and then they get the word. But they're the stream's underway. Okay, yeah, I see it's broadcasting. Oh, I'm good. I'm going to walk away and go do something else, and they never check what
Yeah.
does it sound like, and they're talking, but usually on the equipment you're monitoring with, you're not hearing it. So
Right.
anyway, so that leads to rule number one, which is as that we recommend, is if you can to separate your mixes so that you have a call it front of house mix, an FOH mix, and
Mm-hmm.
a live stream mix. And so we do that, and we've been up and down. Um, there was several months recently where they kind of set the mix online and forget it. They just but for years we've had somebody there during the whole service
Mm-hmm.
monitoring every word and
Mm-hmm.
adjusting on the fly.
This is your
Uh,
church you're talking
yeah,
about.
at
Yeah.
our
Mm-hmm.
home church. So
Yeah.
we've always separated it, and we've had varying levels of monitoring. But now we're back to a full time, a monitor, a guy that's
Yeah.
got his headset on and he's listening. And one of the things that we do is you can not only listen on the headset, so you can hear audio that's like coming into the encoder, but you can
Mm-hmm.
flip a switch and hear they have a speaker set up that'll show what it sounds like on the web on a computer.
Oh,
So
nice. And they're in a different room, right?
yeah,
And
we're in a different room because
yeah,
that would, if it was
that
loud
would
or
be
it was just
confusing.
pastor
Yeah.
speaking, that would be, plus the stream is going to be delayed by
Yes.
up to a minute, and so that would be like that would be kind of weird. But anyway,
Yeah.
but that's one way to test on the end of stream stuff, and then they'll even get their phone out and say, well, what sounds great on my nice computer speakers, what's it
Right.
going to sound on my tinny
Yeah. Definitely
iPhone?
something you definitely want to be able to do that. Yeah. So it all comes down to being serious, taking that audio mix seriously, and really, uh, understanding these various things that you just talked about. So what's in the house, what we call the house, front of house mix, that's what everybody's hearing if you're sitting in the sanctuary, the worship center. But as you said, it's different online,
Yeah,
and so
and
be able to really understand that makes a big difference.
I have not run sound for either front of house or online mix, but I think one of the key things is you've got four walls in the front of house typically, and so bass is going to reverberate
Mm-hmm.
off of the walls, and so people will be typically, I don't know, turning down, adjusting it, and then when you get into on my phone or coming through a speaker at home, it's a completely different world. You don't have typically don't have the walls to manage the bass, so it's gonna
Yeah.
that's probably
Um,
somebody that knows what they're doing or knows how to do this would comment and let me know that that's a key thing. But I would think it would be.
well, yeah, I mean, having run sound myself, I remember one of the first times I ever walked in, our friend Ken Ballinger. I used to, I walked in his church and started to be a part of that. This is back in the 80s. And because I had a broadcasting background, he thought I would be perfect in mixing sound, which of course makes no sense. But other than turning knobs, I guess. But I did mix a little bit of sound, and every church I've been at, I've probably done it. I never really did it at my second coming at Alive. Now I did mix the audio for the online stream, But I never actually missed a house. But I remember when I first came back to Alive in the early, well, I guess 2008 or whatever it was, how they had just a terrible time with the mix on the house. I mean, the people just complained it was awful. But
Yeah.
anyhow, I digress. But you can certainly, there's a difference. That's all we're trying to say. So if you have a separate mixer, that's ideal, because that
Yeah.
way you could take what's coming out of one mixer and kind of refine it a little bit for your church online audio mix.
Yeah. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. Actually, most of the encoders have a mixer built into the software-based encoders.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using one of, OBS or one of the software-based encoders, there is a mixer built into that, so you don't have to spend any additional money, and you can kind of adjust the sound that's coming in.
That can be good as long as what you've got going into it is okay. I mean, if it's really overdriven, you can't. You can try to turn it down, but it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, and that's we had a new church just this past weekend, right? And then one of the complaints was it was too low. You were saying, and how do I fix this? And they said we have OBS turned up to 100%. And well, you need to go upstream and get a little more audio feed coming to that computer. So
yeah, it's a science, but it's not a complicated science. It doesn't have to be. And again, it's all about paying attention to those details.
Well,
all right,
you're going to get into number 2, which sounds complicated, and something I have no experience with.
Yeah. Well,
and you have lots of experience with.
I guess I do to some degree. Yeah. I mean, once you get in, so the biggest challenge I think people have if they're streaming live and they're streaming the music, that's the music part, whether it's a choir or a band, that's a whole different challenge. And then when you get into somebody that's actually speaking, then things kind of change a little bit. And so now we're talking usually just one person speaking, and we're talking about a microphone and making sure the microphone's where it needs to be, making sure, or even if it's a lapel mic or something like that. Again, you've got to take some time before the actual event, before the service, to dial that in.
You do?
You can't just have the guy walk up there and like, oh, I gotta adjust this because he's too loud or he's too soft, So
or you have somebody running up. Oh, let me get you a battery.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, I understand if you're listening to this and you're a pastor, we got so much going on. There's some people that can help you with this. You need to just kind of map it out a little bit, what you need, what your needs are, what your goals are. And so you can get into this. This is where it gets maybe a little bit complicated. You've got your EQ, you've got compression, and you can look at the notes here in the blog and you can see a little more about that. You got what I call the de-essing. So, where you got people speaking and they have the harsh S sound or the harsh T sounds and all that stuff. So this gets a little more, but doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It's just a matter of spending a little bit of time and understanding, what you can do with your microphone technique, what you can do with your EQ. And honestly, it just takes a little bit of time. And then once you get it, then it's not too bad after that.
So I was reading the blog post before we went on, and you talked about embrace the dry sound. Less reverb is more. So
yeah. So when you're singing, if you have somebody if you have a lead singer, if you have, somebody doing a solo or whatever, it's very common for the sound guy to add some reverb. So reverb was kind of that, kind of almost like a little echo sound. You know what I mean? And it makes, when I used to sing, I used to insist on reverb because I sounded so flat. I felt like if I didn't have reverb, and maybe I wasn't, maybe I didn't. I don't know. Annie always hated the way I sounded, but some people said I was all right. But so anyhow, when the guy is actually speaking or the gal is actually speaking, you don't want the reverb. You don't want like this echo sound. You don't want this. You just want the sound to be rich and full. And again, you can make adjustments with a little more bass if you need to, or a little less tenor or whatever, and you can make some changes there that will make it sound good. But you don't want the same reverb going on, and it's just not. I mean, I don't think it's
Don't
appealing.
you sound holier if you have a lot of reverb?
Yes, the voice of God. I am speaking the word of God directly from God. Yeah, you sound a little more holy, maybe. I don't know. It sound like whatever it was in the Ten Commandments. Anyhow, but let's move on. So yeah, just get away from all that goofy stuff. Just if you get your microphone where it should be, and you can dial in the bass a little bit, dial in the compression and EQ, then you're good. You don't have to add a bunch of that stuff. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of
So
mixers have buttons you can push that you can if you want more reverb, or if you want reverb added, you just push a little button next to the to the slide. So you don't really need to do that. Anyhow, move on.
all right. So the other one, and we do this at our church as well, and that is, integrate the room, meaning create some opportunity for the ambient microphones. I guess it's especially true if pastor's trying to be funny, right? So
yeah, I'm guilty of this. I'm real big on this because when I was speaking a lot, especially at the last church I was at, I spoke a lot. I wasn't a senior pastor, but I was speaking a lot, and I tended to, I know it's hard to imagine me, with my humor, because my humor is I'm so serious, you know. I'm being sarcastic again, but yeah, I have kind of a dry sense of humor, and I would kind of talk, make some light jokes about something, and if you listen to the tape, and I call it the tape, it dates me, but if you listen to the recording, and if there was an ambient sound, and I would make some kind of a comment, or you don't even have to make it when it comes to humor. It could be anything, if you're even being serious and people are really getting into what you're talking about, depending on your style of worship, people amen, and people, uh, kind of encouraging you on in the congregation. If you have ambient sound, that shows up on your recording, right? And if you're, like I said earlier, if you're making a joke or something, you'll get people laughing. But I've had times where there was no ambient sound and people laughed and everything. Hard to believe, but they did. And then when you listen back to the recording, it sounds like the joke just fell flat.
yeah,
Like
I bet
nobody liked it.
should have just had some camera shots of their stunned faces, right?
That reminds me of one time. One of my worst sermons ever was at a live church, your church, back in the mid '90s, and it was a disaster. And I won't get into what I said, but I mean, they actually
I remember.
They have an elders meeting about it, and Doyle Kennedy was up, and he was already upset about other things. But yeah, and in that case, if there would have been ambient sound, people would have been going, "Oh my God!" Oh. That would have been that kind of a thing you would have heard, but you didn't hear that. But anyhow, so ambient sound can add to the experience. That's what we're trying to get at here.
Yeah. So
it can add to the experience.
These are what they call choir mics. You're calling condenser mics.
You can hang them from the ceiling
over everybody, so that you don't want to mic everybody up as they walk through the door or anything. But
right, you don't want that. But you can put it in different places. I mean, if you can't get it from the ceiling, sometimes even the lapel mic I had at the place I was at last time, it would pick up. I wasn't that far away from people in front of me, and so it would pick up things, and it worked out pretty good. I mean, it added to the experience. So it adds to the experience, and it kind of, when people are listening to the recording, is what we're getting at. Then or the live stream, I guess. Then people, are gonna like, oh yeah, people are into this. All right, let's move on because we're running out of time. We spent too much time talking about funerals. Number 5 in our notes. First one was the golden rule: separate your mixes, prioritize the clarity of the vocals. Third one was embrace the dry sound. And fourth one, of course, was integrate the room with ambient microphones. Number 5, levels and dynamics. Consistency is the key.
Yes. So
why am I talking like this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
William Shatner.
Yeah, I know that in the back of our sound booth, he's got a big decibel meter that is just up there, just measuring sound, which I guess he's primarily looking at, like, we have a worship band and worship band levels of sound, which is interesting because I never thought that our worship service was too loud ever. But I had a former boss of mine that lived out of town, and we hadn't seen each other in a long time. We're real good friends, and he came in, and that was his chief complaint. He's like, "It's so loud in here." It's like, really?
You were
So
used to it.
I guess I was used to it, but
yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe it is. I don't know. It didn't seem any louder than other times, but
yeah.
So anyway.
Well, yeah, the decibel meter is actually a good tool to have. I bought one of those at my last church because we had a small room, so to speak. We could only get about 100 people in, and we had some people complaining, and so we kind of had this thing like, well, how loud does it get? How's too soft? And your pastor Jeff Love always was big on, I want to fill the room up. And what we're talking about here, folks, is primarily obviously music. We want the music. We want the music to fill the room, but we want it to be a good experience, and we don't want to drive people away. So a decibel, I can't remember now. I think I finally looked at Disney World's what they used as an acceptable decimal level. And I don't remember what that was now. But
it's like a jet taking off, right? Somewhere around there.
No, I mean, it was a pretty decent level. And so I helped. So the last church I was at, I didn't really mix sound, but I was in charge of everything. And so I had the people mixing sound. Okay, we want it at this level. We wanted it, whatever it was, 79. I don't remember what the decimal level was, and that seemed to help, so
I know.
And compression is a good thing as well. You can use that on your mixer. Is talking about keeping things consistent and not overblowing people, with too much sound. Compression can also help keep those levels a little more manageable.
Yeah. I know at our church as well, the pastor wants to fill the room, and so people would complain, and he put out a jar of earplugs that you can, as you walk through the entrance to the sanctuary. And they chose these really colorful, just individual earplugs, and they looked like candy to me, and I've almost eaten them many times.
Yeah. So, candy corn. Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah, that's what they look like, kind of like candy corn things. I'll have one of those.
That room that you guys are in, I assume that you fixed it, but there was problems all the time. I think part of it was the walls and the floor and the roof. I don't know, but it was a challenge. And I remember, Mark Small was frustrated because he was doing his best, and Tony Harrison they were doing their best, and we brought in somebody from a bigger church to help them mix sound. And that offended everybody. Not everybody. That offended some of the people working in the sound booth, and it was just a mess. So I'm assuming you guys got that fixed. I don't know, because I left by then. I was like, I think I did anyhow. All right.
Moving on. So we already talked about this one.
Yeah, we already covered it. Number 6, monitor your stream. Monitor your stream, not just a mix. Listen, as you alluded to earlier in the podcast, a long time ago, listen to it, not just in your ear pods, but if you can listen to it from a speaker somewhere, if you can. You might not be able to if you're in the same room as what's going on, but maybe on your phone or something. Do your very best to monitor it, not just your mix. Test it on different devices and all that stuff. Number 7, invest in your people. This is a big one. Invest in your people, training and communication. Again, yes, it takes some time, it takes some effort, but training them and also really establishing good communication is really important. Because this is as we said at the very beginning of the podcast, an important topic to cover. Your audio is just as important, if not more important, in your stream.
We did it.
We did it. And look, I know this was a rough overview. I'm sure there's some people listening that are really expert. We've had experts on this podcast before. Probably need to have them on again on sound. I know it's a quick overview, but what you're doing is your live streaming is an ongoing journey, but it can have some great rewards to it. And so understanding these unique things here when it comes to online sound and understanding how to do some of this stuff. It's never perfect. At least it never is in my case. But at least if you keep moving, it will be a good experience for people watching online, and hopefully, they'll enjoy the experience. And if they're in your area, they'll come and experience you in your facility. All right, are we done here?
We're done here.
All right. Strange podcast, but I think it ended okay. If you want to subscribe to the Church Solutions podcast, well, I'd encourage you, if you would, just go anywhere you get your podcast and subscribe to it. Give us a rating as well. You'll never miss a podcast. And make sure you go to streamingchurch.tv. That's us. And check out all the resources we have, the blog that we have here, as well as our other podcasts and webinars coming up. We want to help churches. That's what we're all about here. So we appreciate people listening here. Thank you, Mr. Steve Lacy.
Glad to be here.
And again, thank you, folks, for spending some time on the Church Solutions podcast. My name is Phil Thompson. Please take care of yourself and each other. We'll catch you again on another episode of the Church Solutions podcast.